Yeah, sure. I was going to say that basically, I know that for myself, having written a couple of books, that I realize nowadays you really need to be your own publishing company, and it's that thing where you no longer can count on these traditional publishers to provide all the marketing and so it's a little bit like I was thinking about it that it's a little bit like there's a show back in the I think it was the 80s or something like that called The Greatest American Hero, and you have all these superpowers, that like with the internet, that social marketing and stuff to reach people. But the problem is nobody gave you the instruction manual. Nobody, kind of provided you the how to use all these great powers that you got. So when I recently connected with Sarah, like from her background as an entrepreneur, as having worked with startups and stuff, I realized that there's a real need for this information, and we started working together. And I definitely know that she's gonna provide a lot of great advice, and so I'm gonna at this point just let Sarah take it away.
Super. Well, thanks, John. Yeah, we actually were trying to figure out whether we met through Instagram. It was definitely related to Instagram, whether it was actually on Instagram first or on our Facebook group. But it's been a great collaboration. We've had a lot of fun working together, and really happy we can do this little hangout today. So I wanted to keep this pretty short, and we're already a few minutes into the time. So what I'm going to do is jump right into the content, because I want to make sure we have time for people to ask questions at the end. So I am going to, let's see, get my screen show going here. Sorry, I'm looking the other way because I have this multiple monitor thing going on. So I'm going to get my slideshow up and share my screen with everybody. And the goal today is really to talk through some ideas for those of you who are authors already, or are working on a book, or planning to release a book in the near future, to give you some great ideas on how you can use Instagram to effectively promote your book. And I just think it's a fantastic platform right now. It's getting great engagement, and it's very easy to connect with people and get exposure on Instagram right now. So let me jump in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some ideas for great content promotion around books. So what I've got here, the first is just a screenshot of a post on Instagram. So I'm guessing most of you are on Instagram or have started using Instagram. So I'm going to give you some examples of some content and some bios around promoting books. And I love this little, very simple graphic that somebody's posted here on Instagram, because it really lets people know that this person is a writer or an author. So it does it in a very unintimidating way. So it's not salesy. It's not, pushing their books. It's not forcing them into, some promotional content, but it's just helping people to understand, hey, I'm a writer. Anything you say or do may be used in a story. So I think this is a fun way to just remember to let people know that you are working on something and writing something. And that's true even if your book is not out already. You can always start to tease the content, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. Is one really important step of any launch, whether it's a book launch or a product launch or a new service that you're offering, is in that period before you actually launch, is to start to build up the anticipation in the market. You want to build the buzz. You want to let people know something is coming. And so here's a couple of examples of some Instagram posts that are really teasing the content for a future book. So the image on the left says, guess who has her 5th book to finish? Me, time to get writing, leave me alone. And then her Instagram handle right within the image there. So I think that's a great one. Again, let people know what you're working on. If you're working on a book that's coming out later, even if it's a ways away, even if you think it's going to be 6 months or more, it's never too early to start to let people know what you're working on. I think that's a big mistake that I see with a lot of launches, is that people don't really give enough of advance notice and a heads up to their audience. So this is a really cool way to do that. And on the right-hand side, it's a lot more explicit. This is a book that's coming out very soon. Says maybe your chapter 9. I'm not quite sure what a Tinderella is, but I will confess. But it shows the picture of the cover of the book and out on the 21st of May. And like a lot of great Instagram content around products, what I like about this as well is they've put the book into a nice setting with some, natural setting with some things around it, like glass of wine, kind of setting the mood. And they've also added some text that really indicates to people, okay, this is coming out the 21st of May. So gives people a heads up and definitely lets people know something is coming and the date and that it's imminent. And part of this launch or pre-launch phase, you also want to be working on Instagram to keep building your audience around the types of people that would be interested in your book. So think about other content that could be valuable to them. It could even be little, quotes from your book or things like that, tips, and start to post some content and make sure that you're using the hashtags that are relevant for that audience, and make sure that you're encouraging them to start to engage with those people so that you can build up your followers in that pre-launch phase for sure. And we'll talk about another strategy to do that as well in just a minute. So the next is the actual launch of the book. And for sure, you want to celebrate the launch. You want to make it a big event. This is an example of actually a publishing house that's showing a book launch. You can see on the left, this is their bio. They've explained clearly what they do. And on the right, this is an example of a great post. It's gotten a lot of likes, over 200 likes, and they're showing the book coming out with some champagne. There's lots of different ways you can show your launch event. If you have a physical event, you can actually show pictures from your launch event. If you have a virtual event or webinars that you're doing around your book launch, you can talk about those on Instagram. But definitely, celebrate your launch and make it a big deal, and make sure you think about in advance before that launch day what kind of content you can use to show people, hey, my book is out, and let's all celebrate together. That's another mistake I see people making a lot with launches, is not queuing up or planning their content in advance. And then you're running around kind of in a frenzy on the day your book launches or your product launches, trying to get those posts out. So this is something you can easily get the images ready in advance. And then, of course, I love to show some candid images on Instagram as well. So you can show, again, if you have a physical event or a book signing, you can just take a candid shot of that. You with somebody, that's attended the event and you're holding your book is a great one. So show some candid shots as well, but definitely think in advance about what you can queue up so you're ready to go. This is a nice example of a post that kind of describes and entices the audience. So rather than just showing the book cover, they actually, the title and the text that's added to the image here is what happens when a dream changes direction. So that actually, gives people a little bit of, enticement and reason to be interested in that book. It really kind of gives them something to think about and makes them want to engage so that they can find out what does happen when a dream changes direction. Another couple nice things about this post is they've used a hashtag of the book name. So they've created a hashtag, hashtag without regret, and that's the same as the book title. You want to be using your hashtags consistently. If you set up a hashtag just for your book, which I think is a great idea, you want to be using that hashtag all the way from the very beginning through the teaser content and the pre-launch content, all the way through the launch, and then even after the book is out, when you're continuing to kind of, have that drumbeat going around your book so you can continue to get sales and interest in your book. So the next one is to show availability. So I think a lot of us, and myself included, if we're not very good at self-promotion, we tend to not want to tell people. We want to be really subtle, and we don't want to be shoving things down people's throats about what we're doing. And what I see happen is that in the end, your audience doesn't even know that you have a book. It might be so subtle, and you're trying so hard not to be pushy and salesy that you actually don't raise the awareness. So this is just a nice way. You can show it shows the book, and it shows where it's available. That's another thing that I like about this post. So they've got the Amazon iBooks logo there, so it's very clear for people that this is actually a book, and you can get it there on Amazon iBooks. They've also put a website set up a website for the book, which, depending on the size of your book launch, a website is a great idea. It can just be a really simple landing page that just talks, shows an image of the book and has links for people where to push to purchase the book. So that's another great idea, is to just actually put your URL for your book, if you have one, right into the image there. So I like this image a lot. Another great thing you want to show is if you reach that coveted bestseller status, whether it's on Amazon or the New York Times or whatever publication or venue you have this bestseller status, you definitely want to be able to tell people about it, because that is a huge validation of your credibility. And this is really important for people who are subject matter experts and maybe, coaches and consultants that are using their book to help them to get visibility and clients. So if you reach that best-selling author status in a certain category, you definitely want to tell people about it. And this is a really simple screenshot just from the Amazon page. It just has the book at the top with the #1 bestseller, and they've added a very simple graphic, #1 best-selling author. So I like this kind of approach to just show people. It gives you the evidence and the credibility for your status of a best-selling author. This next one, you can see somebody has released a book called The Om Factor, and she has put the link to buy her book right into her profile. So during that launch period, from the time it's available, if you're really trying to have the call to action be for people to buy that book, you can put the link right into your bio. And then from your posts, you can send people back to your bio and tell them that you can buy the book at the link in your bio. I normally would recommend, though, using some kind of a shortened URL here, a pretty link or a bit.ly or some kind of vanity URL that leads to where people can purchase the book. It's just a little bit more attractive in your profile. But I do think if your goal is to try to get sales, you want to be able to just switch your link out in your profile right when that book goes live. Now, if you have your book out, one of the important ways to get more credibility and get more people interested in your book is to get positive reviews of your book. And so I really like this post because this book has actually gotten a great review from somebody who's a host of Good Food America. So they've actually shown a picture of the person who reviewed the book. They've just put a little quote with the highlight of the review. So he's saying this book is the millennial version of Eat, Pray, Love. So it's just a little quote with what the reviewer is saying, and it has the reviewer's name. So I love this image because it grabs attention. It has the quote, so it has a little bit of content there, and having the image of the person there actually is also grabs attention in the news feed. And then you can see in the actual description of the post, she's gone on to write out the entire review. And what's also important there is she has tagged by using the reviewer's Instagram tag. So down at the bottom, maybe a little difficult to see on your screen, she's tagged at Danny Boom Official, which is his Instagram account. So what that means, and this is again another tip that's related to kind of extending your reach on Instagram and being able to broaden out your audience, is when you tag other people, then people that are looking at his photos can see your image of him. So it gives you more exposure to another audience. So they've used the description here to put the full book review, so people that are interested can actually read the thorough review there, and it's great content. And the image just links to that, which is great. So the next image here is just about showing yourself. And so this is actually the author who's holding her book. It's always good to have personal photos, and you can have a lot of fun with this. I've seen people get really creative and show themselves with their books in different funny poses and different locations. A lot of those, tactics can just grab attention in the news feed. And so, this is a pretty simple one. She's actually set it in a nice kind of luxurious setting in the background. But you can have fun. You can do this with showing yourself, in your pre-launch phase. You can have pictures of yourself, actually writing the book. People love that behind the scenes kind of content, and they can see you working on the book, and they can follow along, and you can tell your story leading all the way up to your book launch, which is great. So, don't be afraid to show yourself. I have to get comfortable with that. Or I've had to get comfortable with that myself, because I'm one of those people that doesn't always love myself in photos or videos. So, but people really want to see you, and they want to connect with you as the author of the book. And when they see pictures of you in different contexts, they really kind of develop that close relationship. And books are like any other product. People will buy when they have a relationship with the person who's created the product. So I think it's really important. Now, this next one is an example of a promo campaign that you can run. So this is actually this author, and this has worked really great. Actually, I've seen my friend Deborah Jason just did a book launch, and she did something like this, which was fantastic. She actually mailed out copies of her book in advance to a lot of people that she knows. And when people received the book, they could take pictures of their book, in different funny locations. They take pictures of themselves with the book, and they post it on their Instagram feed. And she's been very clear here. So the description here, if you can't read it, says, "Shared with me by a reader who just received her copy today. If you receive yours, please share, and don't forget to tag." And she put her hashtag, or her at Rebecca's Author, which is her account name. So she wants people to tag her account when they put the post up on Instagram. And it's also good to have people use a hashtag. If you're using a hashtag for your book, then that's a really great thing to do as well. And so I think this is really a nice way to get that, again, that broader reach by having other people post content. It's often called, in the marketing world and social media world, we call it user-generated content. And really what that means is people who are using your product or consuming your product are taking pictures, and they're posting it, or taking images, or even videos. You can ask for videos. Don't want to forget that, because videos can be very effective on Instagram. But you're asking other people to post your book and then tagging you and using your hashtag. And what that does is it gives you exposure to their audiences. And so it can promote your book, and it can also grow your following. And, back to kind of, what I teach is really having your foundation built up, kind of the foundation of your Instagram house, so to speak, built up really well. So if your profile is very compelling, if you've built your profile in the right way, when people get exposure to you through other people they're following, then they'll start to follow you too. And that can be a fantastic way to really organically grow your followers on Instagram. And I want to point out just a few things more here quickly about the hashtag. So she's used quite a few hashtags, and she's used some that are very specific for this type of book. So this is some kind of a vampire story. So she's used hashtags like vampires, vampire lovers, vampire books, paranormal, paranormal romance, romance novels, vampire versus werewolf. These are very specific hashtags to the content of her book. And that's a fantastic thing to do, because you really always want to be thinking about the audience that would be interested in your book, and how do you reach them. And so using these really targeted hashtags that are very specific to people who might be reading vampire books and enjoy vampire books and, you know, romance vampire books. She's using those hashtags to really attract those people because it will show up in the news feed for those hashtags. So I think that's a great strategy. And I just have one more, you know, quick slide here. Just wanted to explain about some different hashtags that you can use. There's always hashtags that are kind of particularly applicable to Instagram. So Bookstagram is one of them. Book Geek, Book Porn are some other examples of really common hashtags that you'll see that authors use on Instagram. Authors of Instagram is another one. There's some more general hashtags like author, author life, book launch that you can use to describe your book launch. And again, these should be really in addition to specific hashtags that will appeal to your audience that's going to be interested in reading this book and buying your book. And on the right side, another idea that you can use around the hashtags is things like publishing. You can use hashtag with the name of your publisher. You can use a hashtag with the name of the store or the places it's available. So hashtag Amazon, hashtag Barnes & Noble. And then the last couple are just examples of, you know, genres of books. So hashtag travel book, hashtag wedding book. So just make sure that you're using a combination of some, you know, broader hashtags like, you know, book launch and Bookstagram and an author on your posts. And you're also using very specific hashtags that are very relevant to your audience and related to the content of your book. So those are the tips that I had. And I'm going to open it up for questions here in just a minute, but I do want to make a special offer here quickly for everybody that's joined us here today, that John and I have an Instagram course on Udemy, or Udemy. I've heard different ways of pronouncing it, but it's called Instagram Marketing for Startups and Entrepreneurs. And just for attending today, we wanted to make a special offer to everyone. And the special discount price is just $10. Right now, this course is $47, and we are continuing to add content to this, and the price will go up as we add more content to this. And so today you can get that just for $10. That's $37 off for those of you that want to do the math. So it's a really great price for this course. We've got a lot of 5-star reviews on it. So I think it's a really fantastic way if you're just getting going on Instagram, or if you're already using Instagram to promote your book or your business, but you're not really seeing good results. This will really help you build that foundation of the house that I talked about to make sure that your bio is set up well and properly to attract your target audience. It will help you make sure that you're using the right kind of content that works well on Instagram and that you're optimizing that well. So we've just got a limited quantity of these coupons. And so once they're gone, but you can grab it at the website below. It's visualmarketingedge.com/IG book promo. So sorry, I've taken a few extra minutes here, but I do want to see if we've got some questions coming in. There should be a chat box for those of you attending live right underneath the video. So please do type in your questions, and
Yes,
I'll be happy to answer.
Sarah, looks like Scott has been asking about hashtags, and he's asking about, is there a way to like kind of figure out what's, you know, the ideal popularity for a hashtag? You know, he's saying something about diversifying your hashtag profile. I'm not sure what, let's see, you can't just say everything.
Yeah, I think I know what he's asking about, and maybe I can show you. Let me see if I can get this back into my iPad. Somehow I've sort of lost my iPad. Let me see if I can quickly show my screen, and maybe I think I know what he's talking about. So I'm going to share my screen again and show you. I've got the Instagram app open here. Let's see if we can. All right, Can you see that, John? Just make sure. So when you're searching for hashtags, so I just tapped on the very bottom navigation bar on the little magnifying glass, and I get to this search screen. And so, you know, for example, right here I have a search pulled up that says that's for publisher. And you can see at the top, and I'm on the hashtags is selected here. So you can search for people, so you can search for accounts that have publisher in them, or you can search for hashtags, and actually using publisher in your name is another great way to come up in the search there, or author or something like that. But in this particular example, whoops, so we've got the publisher, and you can see that the top hashtag publisher has 29,000 posts. The next one, publishers, has 10,000 posts. And then you go further down to publisher strategy. Publisher's life only has 213 posts. So I think what Scott's referring to in terms of balancing out your hashtag profile is a little bit related to what I was talking about before, where you might want to use some broader hashtags that are more popular, like the author one, and I'll show you how many come up when you put author in search. So you've got almost 1 million posts on author, right? So that's a really broad hashtag. It's not going to be very specific to the audience that you want to reach. It'll reach a lot more people, but only for a very short time, because so many people are posting content with that hashtag author that very quickly you're just going to be buried in the feed of that hashtag, the news feed of that hashtag. So you can see authors of Instagram right underneath has only 8,000 posts. So if you use a hashtag that's more specific like that, you will have a little bit longer lifespan of your post within that hashtag, if that makes sense. So I definitely recommend, you can use some of the broader hashtags, but I think the more specific your hashtags can be, and I really encourage you not just to put things like book launch and these general hashtags that are just related to any kind of book, but you really want to be putting hashtags in that are related to your particular audience. And so if we go back to our example that I just shared, vampire romance would be an example of one that probably isn't too popular here, but it would be very specific because there's only 524 posts. You can also see vampire romance novels only has 56 posts. So there's not as many people maybe searching for those, but those are you're going to come up in the search for sure if anybody does actually search for vampire romance novels or vampire romance novels. So I think these more specific hashtags, and as far as numbers, there's no exact science. Certainly anything with 1 million or more views is going to get lost very quickly. With 1 million or more posts, that will be lost very quickly in the news feed. But these, I would look for some hashtags that have, in the hundreds to the thousands, and try to broaden it out a little bit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to have a hashtag that's used by a lot of people, but yeah, like you said, if it gets lost in the sea of noise, it really doesn't help. So I think it's basically like you said, finding that balance. I think the other thing too is knowing what the difference is. Like, for example, there's some hashtags that are more popular in Twitter versus things that are used more in Instagram.
Right.
So like what would you say is a way to kind of decide, where to go for, like an author?
Yeah, so that one example that I showed before, and I'll see if I can pull it up here, was the authors of Instagram. Sorry, I'll switch back to the screen share here. Is a hashtag that's very specific to Instagram. Oops, make sure everybody can see it. So there you can, once you start to browse, so if you look up something like author, you can start to browse and see what other people are using in their books. So you might be able to start, this is the way I like to do hashtag research. So I might find a broad hashtag like author, and then I might look for some content like a book like this, and then I would go into it and see what kind of hashtags are they using and start to make a list. And this is, again, work that you can do in advance before your launch, so you already have your hashtags ready. So that way you can just see what's popular on hashtags. So you find a broader hashtag and then you start looking at the posts themselves and you'll start to get some ideas of some other hashtags. So that's one way that I like to do hashtag research, actually on Instagram. So here's one, let's write together. Here's some hashtags, right? So they're using, a little bit broader ones, but poetry, for example, if you have a book of poems, Poetry in Motion, Poetry Addicts, and you'll be able to start to see what's trending on Instagram in terms of the hashtags. And I always really encourage people to think about, people get caught up in the numbers and they want to have a huge amount of followers and they want to reach a lot of people with their posts. But I always think it's really more important to be reaching the right people, the people that are going to be interested in your book. Because if you are just using a hashtag like author, it just reaches a really broad group of people. So it's not, it's a good one to use because it might catch the attention of, publishers or people that are in the industry. So, and you want people to kind of know that you're an author. So it's a nice one to use, but it's not going to get you that targeted audience that really is interested in your book the way something like a vampire romance novel would, right? So I would encourage you to really think about doing some research for the hashtags that are very specific to your audience, because I would rather have, a couple hundred people that are really great fans of what I'm doing than to have, 1,000 people like the post, but they're just hitting like as they go through because they like your picture and they're not really interested in what your book is about, and they're not really likely prospects to actually buy your book or even to share it. And we didn't have a time really here to get into kind of, sharing strategies, but, there's definitely other ways you can encourage people to share your content.
Well, speaking of agents and publishers, are there ways of using either hashtags or other content to kind of attract them?
Yeah, definitely. So that's where you can actually tag, and this is something you can do with press as well. That's another thing. I think people often don't, when they think about using Instagram for their business, they get very focused on finding customers, which is great. But there's a lot of other ways you can connect with publishers if you're an author, with press. Press is great if you're an author too, local press. So I encourage you to also make a list, and this is again something to do in advance, is to make a list of some influential people or accounts that you want to start interacting with. So if you're trying to get the attention of publishers, you want to try to make a list of who those publishers are. If there's reporters and local press, and you want to start to have a real legitimate engagement with them in advance. So you never want to just jump in, start following somebody who's a reporter or a publisher, and then, hey, I've got a book to promote, right? You want to start to get a real sincere engagement. So, put them on your list of people to be engaging with and following and engaging with their content, leaving comments, but legitimate, not just spammy stuff. It's not really a tactic. It's really a tactic that works when you're genuine and when you are having that real interaction. You make a connection with someone. People forget when they're using social media for business that it's a social network. And so it's a way to make connections with people the same way that you would in a live event, for example. Or if you met them in person, and having coffee or, at an event, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the things that kind of happens is sometimes we put this phone in our hand or we start typing on this keyboard and then we forget that we're still interacting with a live person.
Right.
I think the technology actually gets in the way in that sense, that we kind of, because of that distance that's somehow created, we start thinking that we should do things that we normally wouldn't do, like say meeting somebody over coffee, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. So engagement, it's something else we didn't have a chance to cover here, in this, but make sure that when you get likes and comments, especially comments, just make sure that you're engaging back. And if people share your book, make sure you leave them a comment and thank them and just be sincere and legitimate. And, if it's too big and you have a big launch coming up for a really big book and the traffic and the comments are just going to be too overwhelming for you, then try to get, somebody on your team to help you, or, recruit somebody, a volunteer, somebody that you know that can help you to kind of respond to this. Because you really want to take the opportunity of launching your book and having that book is a really, whether you're an author and that's your full-time profession, or you're just trying to promote this one book, or whether your book is also, just one of the things that you're offering to your audience. A book launch, like any launch, is a fantastic opportunity to engage with people and make a connection. So just make sure that you're answering back, and when people take the time to leave you an interesting comment, just make a personal reply back to them.
Awesome. Let's see. I think that's it for the comments at the moment and stuff. I know that for me personally, the last time I launched the book, I didn't use Instagram at all, and I definitely now I've got some really good ideas of for the next time and stuff. Yeah, I think overall, looks like folks seem to be pretty happy with the answers, and I guess maybe we could just put up the information about the Udemy course one more time.
Sure,
if anybody wants to get that.
All right, let me pull that up real quick.
We're starting to get folks to have some interaction discussions on there. I think that's one of the things that's really nice about the Udemy stuff, is that it allows people to kind of interact within the class, so to speak, and send their questions really directly to the instructors. It's something that I think is rare for a lot of folks who they create all this different kind of courses and content and stuff like that. You rarely connect directly with the instructors and stuff. I think Udemy does a good job of allowing you to do that.
Yeah, it's great. So here's the URL again, visualmarketingedge.com/IG book promo. And if you're on the call right now and you don't, you can't read it, or you don't get the right link when you type it in, just put a note in the comment to send the link, and we'll be happy to send you the live link. And this Hangout will also be up on YouTube. And so we'll send out a replay link to everyone as well, in case there's anything that you want to review again. Sometimes I have to admit I get a little bit excited and I talk a little bit quickly. So hopefully I haven't covered the topic too quickly for you. And I really hope everyone's gotten some good ideas of how you can use Instagram, and some great content ideas of how you can use Instagram for your existing book or your upcoming book. But it's a really fantastic way. It's getting so much more engagement and interaction, and really eyes on your content right now than Facebook. Those Facebook fan pages, it's so difficult to really get people to see your content. And Instagram is just wide open right now. It's fantastic for that. So whether you're kind of newer on Instagram, or whether you're a little bit of an old pro, I just encourage you to make sure that you think about using the Instagram platform, taking advantage of it when you're launching your book. And if you've already got a book out, it's not too late. I mean, I talked a little bit here about launching your book, but you can have an ongoing drumbeat of content. You can put chapter titles and quotes from your book, and you can just continue that content drumbeat to send people to your book, well after it's published. So don't forget to just remind people that it's there, because everybody's, attention span's so short, and you've just got to stay in front of people. And sometimes, again, it depends on your personality. But for me, I always think, I don't want to bother people too much. But people that are interested in your book and your content, they like to be reminded, because maybe they saw it when they just didn't have a chance to go check it out the first time. And then when you remind them about it later, they're like, oh yeah, I really wanted to get that book. So don't be afraid to send some reminders. And again, I think I showed you some ways of, making it obvious from your posts that you have a book, but not necessarily all of your content is, pushing selling the book, but just kind of raising the awareness and keeping people, informed over time, and reminding them about your book.
Yeah, I definitely have seen that myself in terms of my Twitter reach has kind of dropped quite a bit over just even the past few months, to where, like the number of impressions where I was getting, at one point, like 100 or so, I'm down to maybe the teens or something like that. Yeah. I definitely have a lot more engagement with Instagram, and different times when, I mean, I have a small following still at this point, but, I'm definitely reaching out and, because I'm using more Instagram more, I'm getting more folks to connect with and stuff. But then overall, like just the engagement is a lot higher on Instagram.
Yeah, the last stats I saw from Forrester Research showed like engagement was 58 times higher than Facebook and 122 times higher than Twitter. So it's incredible how different the engagement is. And anyone that's done any social media for business really understands that engagement is the key. The more people are engaging with your content, obviously people are seeing your content, they're interacting with it, they're sharing it. And, the more engagement you have means even more visibility, because that's how, those algorithms, that's how your content's going to get promoted as, suggested content. So, engagement is really critical. If you don't have that, if you're just posting on social media and nobody's responding, it's just not effective. So I love Instagram right now because it's not only the fantastic engagement, but it's such a nice, pure visual platform when people are just scrolling through, on their phone or on their mobile device. They only see one image or video at a time. So you have their full attention. It's not like Facebook where you're just bombarded with links and ads everywhere. So take advantage of grabbing their attention with your content and using images like we've discussed to be able to catch people's eye and let people know about your book so that they are aware.
Super. Yeah, I think that's it for questions for this time. Let's see, one more maybe. I guess the one thing that Scott was asking about was video. That's something that we haven't really talked about. Maybe we can talk a little bit about some ideas for using video for authors.
Yeah, and we talk more about video in the course because this obviously we can't cover here all the different content ideas that are available, but video is fantastic because it's just 15 seconds is the maximum length of your video, but it's incredible what you can do with 15 seconds. So a lot of those ideas that I gave you for images, you can do with video as well. So you can show, you could even just have yourself reading a passage aloud in a video, or if you're at the book launch, definitely grab some video. People love that live interaction. If you're asking other people if you're sending your book out for other people to, read and review, ask them to make a little video and post it on Instagram of them with the book, and you can use it for testimonials, right? So if people have read your book and they have something positive to say, ask them to make a little video for you, because there's just nothing more powerful than having that validation of your customers or your readers, right, saying how much they've enjoyed your book, and ask them to make a little video about what they liked about your book. Be descriptive. So those are some ideas. Again, when you're writing the book, you can have a video of you, whether you work on a computer or you're writing by hand, of where you are in your setting that you like to write. And so there's a lot of fun things you can do with video in just a short 15 seconds.
Super. Alrighty, I think that covers it for today then. So yeah, thanks Sarah for these different tips and strategies, and thanks for everybody for joining us. Really, super questions and stuff, and that definitely, of course, makes it more interesting for everybody, and a lot more valuable information. I definitely now, like I said, for my next book launch, I've got a lot of ideas now to how to use Instagram. I think what we're going to do is also, like in the future, plan on other webinars that's kind of related once we, kind of see where people want to focus on maybe some area of, how to use Instagram. And I think that's it.
Great. Yeah. So if there's other things you want to learn about, be sure to type it into the comment box so that we'll get the message. And I really want to thank everyone who tuned in live today. And for those of you watching on the replay as well, I appreciate your time. We did go a little longer than 30 minutes, but hopefully you found it valuable today. And John, it's been really fun working with you. Thanks so much for hosting this today. I had a really good time. So hopefully you did too.
Definitely.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.